It's meal prep day again. Today I'm gonna prep healthy breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner that will get you 100 grams of protein per day. But first, let's head to the grocery store to get some ingredients.
Here in Finland, we have two main grocery store chains. One focuses on lower prices and the other on quality. We always go first to the cheaper store that is closest to where we live and get all the ingredients we can from that store and then get the rest from the other store. The total for the first store was 33.53 euros. Then we headed to the other store to get the rest of the ingredients. As you can see, the veggies here look a lot fresher. I already had some ingredients for this week's meal prep at home, but I added the full grocery list to the pinned comment. I get many questions about how I can find lactose-free options for all products, but look at this yogurt and milk aisle. We pretty much have a lactose-free option available for every single dairy product. The total for this store was 27.56 euros, and the grand total was 61.09 euros, which is less than 3 euros per serving.
And now let's start prepping the meals. I'm gonna start by making overnight oats for breakfast.
I'm making the overnight oats into these glass jars, but you could also use containers. First, I add oats. Then I add some chia seeds, which are a great source of healthy fats and fiber. Next, I add high-protein Greek yogurt. The yogurt I use contains 13 grams of protein per 100 grams. I also add some milk and maple syrup for sweetness. I'm making 3 different flavors: blueberry pie, tiramisu, and pumpkin spice. For the blueberry pie flavor, I add blueberries, cinnamon, and ground cardamom. For tiramisu, I add a shot of espresso and cacao powder. And for the pumpkin spice flavor, I add pumpkin puree and pumpkin spice. I add extra Greek yogurt for topping, and fresh blueberries for the blueberry pie flavor, some cacao powder for the tiramisu with fresh raspberries, and crushed pecans for the pumpkin spice flavor. Overnight oats are one of my favorite breakfasts to prep because they are prepped in 5 minutes.
Then I just store these in the fridge.
For lunch, I'm making stuffed bell peppers. First, I cut the tops off the bell peppers and remove the seeds. I also finely chop the tops and use them in the filling. You can trim bell pepper bottoms if needed for stability. Then I cooked some chicken mince, and now I add some spices: oregano, dried basil, paprika spice, salt, pepper, and chili flakes. If you don't have IBS like me, you could also add some onion and garlic powder. Next, I add chopped green onions, parsley, the chopped bell pepper tops, half a cup of chicken broth, 1 can of diced tomatoes, and some cooked rice. I let it simmer for about 3 minutes. Then I turn off the heat and mix in half of the cheese. Next, I stuff the peppers with the filling. I also add half a cup of water into the bottom of the dish, which helps to ensure they stay moist and cook evenly. I cover the baking dish with foil and bake at 180 Celsius degrees, 350 in Fahrenheit for 35 minutes. Then I remove the foil and top the peppers with the remaining cheese and bake uncovered for about 8 minutes more until the cheese melts. These turn out super tasty. I like to serve them with fresh basil.
I store these in this big glass container in the fridge. And before serving, I just reheat them in the microwave.
It's already November, so now we can start making Christmassy recipes. So for snack, I'm making a gingerbread yogurt bark. First, I make a high-protein gingerbread granola. To save time, you could of course top the yogurt bark with store-bought granola. But homemade granola is actually super easy to make. I just mix all the ingredients together. I'm adding egg whites to make the granola extra crunchy. Then I just spread the mixture onto a baking pan, lined with parchment paper. I bake it at 180 Celsius degrees, 350 in Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes. This granola is really chunky, crunchy, and so yummy.
In the yogurt bark, I'm using this Icelandic yogurt that has 3% fat instead of the fat-free Greek yogurt that I also bought. I usually use in yogurt barks a full-fat Greek yogurt, but they didn't have that at the grocery stores that I usually use. So this is what we're using this week, but I recommend using a full-fat Greek yogurt since then the bark won't get icy.
Next, I mix together the yogurt and maple syrup, but you could also use honey and some gingerbread spice. I spread the mixture onto a cutting board lined with parchment paper. Then I add the toppings. First I add the granola. Next I add half raspberries and unsweetened peanut butter. The peanut butter I use is 100% made of peanuts. Lastly, I add melted dark chocolate on top. I freeze the bark for a couple of hours. Then I just cut it into pieces. This is such a fun and delicious snack idea. I store it in airtight containers in the freezer and let it sit in room temperature for about 15 minutes before serving. For dinner, I'm making hummus feta bowls. First, I make a high-protein hummus. I add all the ingredients into a blender, chickpeas, juice of half a lemon, olive oil, tahini, ground cumin, salt, and cottage cheese for extra protein. But don't worry, you can't even taste it in the hummus. It just gives it a very creamy texture. Next, I toss sweet potato cubes with olive oil, salt, and pepper on a baking pan lined with parchment paper. I roast them at 200 Celsius degrees, 390 in Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. Next, I mix all the ingredients together for the roasted chickpeas. Then I toss eggplant cubes with olive oil, salt, and pepper. Then I spread the chickpeas to the pan with the eggplant cubes. I roast them at 200 Celsius degrees, 390 in Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. Meanwhile, I rinse 1.5 cups of dry quinoa and cook it in 3 cups of water. When the veggies, chickpeas, and quinoa are cooked, I divide them into containers with the hummus and crumbled feta. Such a flavorful and cozy meal. And here are all the ready meals.
Those were all the meals I meal prep this week. The written recipes are in the description box as always. Let me know in the comments what kind of meal prep recipes you want to see next. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up because it really supports my channel. I hope you tried the recipes. Enjoy!